Hi everybody, it is Wednesday at 4:30 p.m., which means it's time for office hours on the ViaMonstra Academy. This is where you can get updates and ask questions on things like Intune, ConfigMgr, some Azure, a little PowerShell, and everything in between. We're down to the last couple of shows for the year, so let's get those questions ready and get the show started. All right. Hey everyone, I'm Andrew Johnson. I'm flying solo today, so I have some big shoes to fill. Johan is off enjoying what I hope will be a wonderful holiday concert, but we plan to be back next week hosting together again for the final office hours of 2022. I have a few updates from the last week, and then we'll get into some questions. So got a few things here. One thing I wanted to point out, I've been following along myself here over the last 20 days, I suppose it's been. Go ahead and share my screen. Johan has been daily been putting out some short video clips between 5 and 15 minutes on various tips and things that you can do with ConfigMgr, Intune. For example, last night he posted a video on how to speed up application deployments in ConfigMgr, preparing jump boxes. There were a couple of episodes of that a few days ago, creating Win32 apps in Intune using PowerShell. A lot of really good tips that have come out of this over the last, again, 20 days. So I wanted to point this out if you haven't had the chance to check these out yet. We're also down to just a few more of them as we approach the final days of ConfigMas. So that has been on my mind. With Intune, we also got a What's New in Intune December edition. There were a couple of new updates that happened with this release of Intune. Feature and expedited updates actually became generally available, which was pretty cool. These features will allow, or these policies will allow you to configure your devices in such a way that says which feature update they should be on, or for example, on the expedited quality updates, if there's an update that you need to make sure your device gets well before your currently configured update rings, you can use these expedited updates to make sure they get pushed out quickly. There is a link right here in this section that dives into those features a little bit more, as well as the detailed announcement and those becoming generally available. The other news that we talked about a little bit on our last few shows is adding the new Microsoft Store apps to Microsoft Intune, and this is using the Windows Package Manager. So we've touched on that a little bit, but it finally made its way to the official What's New in Intune blog. So that was pretty cool. These links, of course, will all be posted later on. I'll make sure that they get over and get posted so everybody has access to them afterwards. Related to the feature updates, Brooks Peppin posted a blog post yesterday about feature updates. So we've had a couple of good conversations. I've had a couple of good conversations with Brooks recently surrounding this feature, and very happy to see this blog post come out. So this talks about how the feature updates use Windows Update for Business deployment service, and what the feature updates come down to are a policy telling your devices either to stay on the current version of Windows or upgrade to a version you specify. So within this post, Brooks dives into how this feature works with Windows Update for Business deployment service, the reporting that's enabled with this feature, with the feature updates within Intune, and some common issues. So if you're using or interested in the feature updates, highly recommend checking out this blog post from Brooks. It's really good stuff. Also related to upcoming Intune features, I caught a few tweets that the in development for Microsoft Intune documentation was updated to include this little feature here, uninstall Win32 apps in the company portal. So it looks like a time frame hasn't been determined yet for this feature, but if you as an admin determine your users should have the ability to uninstall a specific Win32 app, this feature has been desired for a long time. This will give your users the ability to do that. So we're going to keep a close eye on this feature, and hopefully we'll get some more news on that soon enough, but at least very happy to see that Microsoft is working on this. Let's see. Oh, we also had Microsoft pushed out an emergency fix for some Windows Server OSs that are using Hyper-V. It looks like there are some additional requirements for this, and so I'm unsure of the full footprint of how much this affects, but anytime we get an emergency fix like this, I think it's worth calling out. So there was an issue after Patch Tuesday affecting VMs managed with System Center Virtual Machine Manager and using software-defined networking. So if you, and also Server 2019 and Server 2022. So if you are using one of those systems, highly recommend either getting this patch out according to Microsoft's statement, as well as I believe there was a workaround if you weren't able to, yeah, here we go, a temporary fix available if you can't immediately install these updates. So we'll make sure this link gets posted as well. All right, let's see. In the meantime, I got a couple more things, but I'll take a look here at the chat and see what we have going on, see if we've got any questions coming in. Just a comment on YouTube. Hi, Matt, and thanks for joining us. Staying safe with this winter storm. Yes, quite a big thing moving through the U.S. at the moment. I don't think we're supposed to get too much snow until tomorrow, but keep an eye out, that's for sure. Appreciate that. So Matt had another question coming in from YouTube. Have you heard about the December update affecting Windows 10 21H2 and below, which causes a blue screen of death? I have not, but that is something that we could take a look at for sure while we wait for some of the other questions to come in. See if we've got any information here. So one place I like to check for Patch Tuesday information is a mega thread that is posted on the sysadmin subreddit weekly. Let's see if we can clean this up. Or, sorry, monthly, when Patch Tuesday rolls around. And it looked like there was some information on here. Oh, okay. Russell says there was a follow-up comment. I think it was November's update. I heard they fixed it this month. So let's see if there's anything in here. Oop. So it looks like another known issue from December updates, this time for workstation blue screen. All right, so it looks like a little something here. You might receive an error with a blue screen after installing KB 5021233. All right, looks like there's a workaround available at least, so make sure I get this link posted as well. But yeah, if anybody else has any more information about that, feel free to pop that into the chat as well. Just make sure I've got all this info. All right. And another question coming in on YouTube. I'm just going to review it here real quick. On our config manager environment, mp.msi wants to be reinstalled. I'm seeing it in mpsetup.log. The mpmsi.log ends up with 1603, which means CCM check repair not installed. After 2211 upgrade, the situation is the same. Management point critical error. Which process could execute this MSI, and can I somehow stop it? Ooh, I will. Let's see if I can find something on that. I have not seen this specific error. Make sure 2211 I do have installed from the fast ring over here. Let me make sure that I don't have any of those same errors first. Looks okay. So nothing straight off the top of my head, but let's see if we can find something on that. Let's see if this one might be related. This post from Projwal. Fix SCCM management point uninstall error 1603. So it's the same error, but I'm not sure if it's the exact same situation. And it looks like let's see, p.msi exited with return code 1603. Okay. So just a follow-up comment, not the same situation, the error code's the same. Yeah, unfortunately, nothing I have come across myself. But if I happen to find anything more on that, I'll make sure to drop that in the YouTube description, where the links will be afterwards as well. Right. Any other questions out there at the moment? So while we wait for some more questions to come in, there are a couple of other things that I came across that I just thought were interesting over the last week. Something that's come up a couple of times on our office hours. Seems that DevOps or configuration as code principles sort of continue to make their way into our little section of the industry. And I noticed today Dave Randall and Nina Desnitsa, two product managers at Microsoft, released a blog post earlier today on how you might use configuration as code to manage Intune. So there's a nice long blog post here using two Intune tenants, one meant to be dev and one meant to be prod, PowerShell 7, and an Azure DevOps instance, sort of to help you standardize your configurations and assignments within Intune using code. So this is something that is on my growing way too fast list of winter break projects over the next week and a half. But I thought this was a pretty cool thing as I read through it earlier. There's a reference at the bottom as well to Microsoft 365 DSC, which is using PowerShell DSC. I think we may have talked about it once or twice here on Office Hours. And then some other notes that you want to make sure if you do try to roll this out or use this in a lab or something like that. Just a couple of other notes that are important as you go through here. So pretty cool stuff. What else? Universal question from Russell on YouTube. Have you finished your Christmas shopping? Great question. I'm fairly certain I have, but I'll be able to confirm that once I finish wrapping those presents tomorrow. That's my plan for most of the day tomorrow. Hopefully you're doing a little bit better on the wrapping and shopping front than I am, but thanks for the question. Came across Damien posted this, reposted, I think, this blog post from back in September. Just a nice little tip for using PowerShell. I don't know about the rest of you, but there have been plenty of times that I've gone into a PowerShell prompt and run through a bunch of commands and things like that, and forgot to document them or copy them off or something like that. And his blog post here gives a nice little script that he wrote and posted on GitHub. Johan actually may have mentioned this a little while ago when this was posted, but since it was reposted, I think it's a worthy tip to mention again. This will basically allow you to search through your PowerShell prompt, your console history, programmatically, and actually export the commands. So you can see here you can either export them or view them in a grid view, or actually export them out to a file if you want to copy them out and reuse them later. So cool little tip that I found. I will be using this often, I'm sure. And MMS, Midwest Management Summit, that we mentioned pretty frequently on here, especially as we start to gear up for MMS 2023. The speaker announcements have continued to roll on last week and this week. Highly recommend signing up for the conference if your organization will let you. There's nothing better, in my opinion. Something that I've gone to for nearly every year now. I've only missed one. And they also created a new Discord server last week that I've joined. A lot of people joined pretty quickly. Very nice community. Attendees are on there, speakers are on there, sponsors are on there. A lot of great conversation that I think will be had within this Discord server. So wanted to call that out. If you're involved in MMS, or you're going to be attending, speaking, or have even attended or spoke in the past, would encourage you to hop on the Discord server and chat with everybody there. So starting to get very excited for this, for sure. May 1st will come very quickly. So we can see just some of the awesome speakers that have already been selected to get onto the schedule. So really good stuff. All right. Any other questions out there? All right, question from Matt. Do I have my M365 Dev subscription? Yes, I do. So hopefully I can help with any of the questions that you have. So the M365 Dev subscription, we've talked about it on here before. This is something that I use daily, pretty much. And this is a free rolling subscription, auto-renewing, as long as you're using it, Microsoft 365 subscription. And let's see, you get to the official website for this. So basically what you get with it is 25 Microsoft 365 E5 licenses. It's missing a couple of things like Teams Voice, and there aren't any Windows licenses included in them. So if you do want those in your tenant, you can and need to purchase them yourself. Otherwise, you can also use trials for VMs and things like that. We touched on that a little bit in the December 14th office hours, last week's, I believe. So let's see. Can you show me how to add Microsoft and Azure subscription to it? I think I can do that, Matt. So Matt's asking if I can show how to add a Azure subscription to it. So two different ways that you can add things to the tenant. If you want to add some licenses to this tenant, paid licenses, then you should be able to go into billing and purchase services. And in this particular tab, this is going to show any of the products that are available for this tenant. So if you wanted to add and try out Universal Print or Remote Help add-on, and most if not all of these licenses you can buy on a monthly basis. So say you want to test it out for a month, like Universal Print, for example, $4, throw it on your tenant for a month, test out what you need to test out, and then remove it. You can add additional E3 licenses, just sort of clicking through and seeing what's available here. Power Apps, Power Automate, security and identity are some important ones. If you need to add more EMS E3 or EMS E5, Defender for Identity. The one thing I've noticed, unless it's popped up and I've missed it, is we don't have the ability to add Defender for Endpoint. You can add Defender for Endpoint trials, but I don't believe, or at least I haven't found a way. So if somebody does have a way, please share. I haven't found a way to add just, for example, 2 Defender for Endpoint licenses. So I have added a couple of Windows 10 and Windows 11 licenses that were required for an auto patch demo I did for our masterclass and for ConfigMas. But that's, for example, it doesn't look like all of the licenses are available. So anyways, this is where you could go through and you could add your additional licenses to your tenant. As far as Azure goes, we could just go to portal.azure.com and subscriptions. And from here, forgive me if this is a little off because I created this Azure subscription over a year ago. So the experience may be a little bit different if you don't have an Azure subscription at all in your tenant. But if you can get to this point, you should be able to add a subscription and then add billing. You're going to need a credit card most likely. And then from there, you're able to create your subscription and then add whatever services or resources that you need within this tenant. I don't recall if I started out with a trial on this. I do know at this point any paid services I'm just having to pay for. So that's something to keep in mind. But as long as you're putting forth the funds, for the most part, they make it pretty easy to create these things and get those tests or whatever you want to work with going. So I hope that answers your question, Matt. But if not, or if you have any follow-ups, just let me know here in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them. Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome. You're welcome. This is, you'll hear Johan and I talk about this a lot. We're certainly not the only ones. You'll hear a lot of people in the community talk about this, but this is such a good way to just improve your skills, and especially if you're fortunate enough to love some of the things that we work with. This is just fun, and really helps on the professional development front to have something like this, like the developer tenant, where we can test and try out new Intune things. It's a lot of fun, and it's very useful. I attribute a lot of the steps that I've been able to take in my career to being able to using the lab and testing out new things, and doing things that aren't going to break normal production tenants in any of the organizations I've worked with. So I'll make sure to drop the developer program link into our links again for today. All right, question coming in from Radu on YouTube. Wonder if it's possible to add proactive remediations as dependencies. I'm asking this in the context of temporarily modifying the constraint language to allow me to run PS code. I'm not sure. So, Radu, are you asking in a dependency for like a Win32 app, or something along those lines? That's not what I wanted to go to. So if we looked here to, oh, okay. Proactive remediation to another proactive remediation. Interesting. No, that sounds interesting. Let's take a look. I don't, not that I'm aware of. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think we have a way to do that. So basically, you're looking for a proactive remediation to run, and then maybe remediate if necessary before another proactive remediation runs. No, not a weird request. I just don't think it's possible. Just trying to rack my brain here a little bit to see if I can think of a way around it. So definitely not in here. Nothing I can think of off the top of my head to work around that, but if you do, of oh, All right. Sorry about that, everybody. Looks like a connection to the streaming platform we use here dropped out for just a moment. So I'm not sure exactly where it dropped out, but Radu, nothing that I can think of off the top of my head. But that's an interesting approach. So if you do end up coming up with something, or anybody else on the call or watching this later on comes up with something to meet those needs, I'd definitely be interested in hearing about it. Yeah, absolutely. We'll keep an eye out for that for sure. See if they had something like that. Right. Any other questions? I've still got 28 minutes if we got questions coming in to keep me busy. Great stuff so far today, by the way. Close some of these tabs up here. Anything else out there? I think everybody's starting to hunker down for the rest of the year, starting to take breaks. I hope. We talked about this a little bit last week. This is definitely one of my favorite times of the year where I can stop putting out fires and doing a lot of the operational stuff at work and do some fun, interesting things. So I mentioned I had my growing too fast list of items that I want to play around with or read or research over the next week and a half. So I assume we've got a little bit more of that going on out there, or just everyone stepping away from the computer for a bit. We spend enough time around them, at least, that's for sure. So I'll give a few more 30 seconds or so here, see if we got any more questions coming in, and if not, we'll start wrapping it up. All right. Well, if we don't have any other questions coming in, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining today. It's not quite as fun when it's just Andrew and we don't have Johan here with us, but I want to wish everybody who's celebrating and everything a happy holidays. I hope you have a great rest of your week, rest of your weekend. I appreciate you joining me today. And as I mentioned earlier, Johan and I are planning on being back next week for our final office hours of the year. That'll be on Wednesday, the 28th. So thank you very much, everybody, and have a great rest of your week.